The dates showed the late 18th century. Europe continued to live under colossal powers: emperors, kings, leaders, aristocratic families. For years and years, everything kept turning around the same wheel. But that wheel was about to be shattered by a child born on a small island in the Mediterranean. The name of that child was Napoleon Bonaparte, a man born into a poor family who would redraw the map of Europe. When a year, chapter Corsica, the child of Corsica. In 1769, he opened his eyes to life on the island of Corsica, struck by storms resting between France and Italy. He was not born into a noble family filled with gold, but he always walked with pride. His father, Carlo, had stood firm in Corsica's struggles for independence. Little Napoleon kept fighting within this chaos. Poverty plus the destiny of war, plus a life where he found peace only in his dreams. When he turned 10, he was sent to France, a land where he didn't understand a single word of the language. At school, he suffered the bullying of the children of French noble families. He had an accent because the language was foreign to him, and he came from a poor lineage. But through all the bullying and humiliation, he was doing one thing. He was growing stronger in silence. He spent almost his entire day reading history books, reviewing battle tactics, moving armies across the maps in front of him. The entire school thought his silence was cowardice, but he was the very embodiment of that pitch-dark silence before the storm. 2. Chapter: Rising in the Fire of Revolution. In 1789, the French Revolution erupted. Kings were being overthrown, the established order was collapsing, and the country was heading straight into a great storm. In the midst of this chaos, someone had to take the helm, and that someone would be the boy everyone once called a coward. By 1793, he achieved something remarkable in Toulon. He was only 24. Retaking a port seized by rebels became a huge event in Paris. Just a few years later, when royalists revolted in Paris, his name echoed through the streets again. He spoke only one sentence: "Prepare the cannons." He crushed the uprising within minutes. By then, even the stones on the ground in France knew his name. He was a commander, a tactical genius, but also a tiger waiting for the right moment. 3. Chapter: The Italian Campaign, from young general to legend. In 1796, at just 26 years old, he became the commander of the army of Italy. The state of the army was miserable. They were hungry, demoralized, and in ruins. Napoleon took command, and within only a few months, he turned this shattered army into the most feared force in Europe. The victories he achieved in Italy were not just victories. They were a powerful image-building tool. After each battle, he issued reports, portraying himself as the hero of the people. Even back then, he knew one truth: a war is not won only on the battlefield. It is won in the minds of people. And Europe realized something: Bonaparte is coming. 4. Chapter: The Egypt Campaign and Return. In 1798, he set his eyes on a lion. His aim was to weaken the power of England. For this, he decided to launch a campaign to Egypt. In the scorching shadow of the pyramids, in the endless desert where even water was scarce, the victory he earned still holds a place in military history. But at sea, things did not go well. A heavy blow from the British trapped him in Egypt, yet he still managed to return to his homeland, and when he arrived in Paris, the people welcomed him like an emperor. France was collapsing. The government was weak. Napoleon smelled the opportunity at his feet and acted. 5. Chapter: The Consulate in the Empire. In 1799, he seized power through a coup. France now had a single leader, but leadership alone was not enough for him. The door his destiny opened was much greater. In 1804, in Paris, at Notre Dame Cathedral, he crowned himself Emperor of France. He took the crown from the Pope's hands and placed it on his own head. The message he gave to the world was crystal clear: I do not hand my destiny to anyone. 6. Chapter: The Storm That Shook Europe. Between 1805 and 1809, Napoleon thundered across Europe like a storm. Austerlitz, one of the most flawless battle plans in history, a tactic admired by every leader. He destroyed the united army of 3 massive empires in a single day. The borders of Europe were being reshaped simply because he willed it. France ruled the continent alone. Napoleon's powerful footsteps reached the palaces of kings, and wherever they reached, they brought fear. 7. Chapter: The Russian Disaster. In 1812, he made the greatest mistake of his life. He decided to invade Russia. The Great March of 600,000 soldiers began. But Russia was not the enemy he imagined. Cold, hunger, disease. When they entered Moscow, the city had been abandoned and set ablaze. Now he had no choice but to retreat. On the way back, his entire army was nearly wiped out. From 600,000, only tens of thousands remained. This was the beginning of the collapse of his empire. 8. Chapter: The Fall and the End. The European states did not waste this opportunity. Napoleon lost battle after battle and grew weaker. In 1814, he was dethroned and exiled to Elba Island. But he didn't accept defeat. He never would. He never could. He escaped from exile, returned to France, and within just 100 days he marched back toward power. But the final page of the book had to close at Waterloo in 1815. This time, there was no return. The British exiled him to St. Helena in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. There he was alone, completely alone. On May 5, 1821, he closed his eyes to life by himself. 9. Chapter: Legacy. Napoleon was not only a commander, he was a revolutionary, a leader. He reshaped Europe's legal systems, its educational structures, its governmental models, and even many of the civil codes we use today. From an island child to an emperor, how can a single life change even an entire continent? Napoleon's story tells us one thing: destiny favors the brave.